The drugs work. That part is not in dispute. Block enough dopamine receptors and the voices often quiet down. The delusions lose their grip, so we built a theory around that fact. And for decades, that theory felt like an answer. It wasn't. It was a silhouette of one. Here is the standard account, stated as fairly as it deserves to be stated. Schizophrenia is a psychiatric disorder characterized by hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thinking, and a category of symptoms that are harder to name: a flattening of emotion, a withdrawal from the world, a dulling of motivation that can be more disabling than the psychosis itself. The leading biological explanation centers on dopamine. The brain has a system for transmitting dopamine, a neurotransmitter involved in reward, attention, and salience. And in schizophrenia, that system appears to be overactive in certain regions. Specifically, subcortical areas like the striatum seem to release too much dopamine, or to release it at the wrong times, causing the brain to flag ordinary stimuli as deeply meaningful. A stranger's glance? A coincidence? The hum of a refrigerator? The brain's salience machinery misfires, and the mind builds explanations, sometimes elaborate ones, for sensations that feel urgent and real. Antipsychotic medications work by blocking D2 dopamine receptors. They do not cure schizophrenia, but they reduce the intensity of positive symptoms, the hallucinations and delusions, in many patients. That clinical fact is robust. It has been replicated across decades of trials. This is the dopamine hypothesis. It is not wrong, exactly, but it is incomplete in ways that matter enormously, both for patients who do not respond to antipsychotics and for anyone trying to understand what is actually happening inside that brain. Here is the problem with building a theory from the direction of treatment. When a drug works, we are tempted to reverse engineer the disease from its mechanism. Antipsychotics block dopamine. Symptoms improve. Therefore, excess dopamine causes schizophrenia. This logic has a name in philosophy of medicine. It is sometimes called the pharmacological bridge fallacy, and it is seductive precisely because it feels rigorous. It is not. Aspirin reduces fever. That does not mean fever is caused by a shortage of aspirin. The deeper issue is that nearly every circuit-level finding in schizophrenia research is measured in people who are already symptomatic, already medicated, or both. We are not observing a disease in its native state. We are observing a brain that has been ill, possibly for years, and that has been chemically altered by treatment. Separating signal from artifact in that context is genuinely hard. Not impossible, but hard. And when researchers look more carefully at what dopamine overactivity might actually stem from, the picture becomes considerably more complex. Work published in the Journal of Psychopharmacology as far back as 1997 by Nebel and Weinberger raised a puzzle that the field has never fully resolved. Dopamine activity in the prefrontal cortex, the brain's seat of executive function, appears to be reduced in schizophrenia, not elevated. The striatum shows excess. The prefrontal cortex shows deficit. These are not the same phenomenon. They may be related. The prefrontal cortex normally regulates subcortical dopamine release, so a weakened prefrontal brake could allow subcortical dopamine to run high. But that relationship is inferential. It is a plausible circuit story, not a confirmed mechanism. So the dopamine hypothesis, in its simple form, is already a hypothesis about a symptom of a symptom. The excess dopamine in the striatum may itself be downstream of something else entirely. That something else is where recent research has been quietly pointing. In 2022, a review published in Molecular Psychiatry by Yan and Ryan examined the mechanisms of synaptic transmission dysregulation in the prefrontal cortex. And the picture that emerges is not primarily about dopamine. It is about a failure of inhibitory circuitry. The prefrontal cortex depends on a careful balance between excitatory and inhibitory neurons. The inhibitory side is largely maintained by a class of cells called parvalbumin positive interneurons, fast-firing cells that release GABA, the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. In schizophrenia, these interneurons appear to be underperforming. Their numbers may be reduced. The enzymes that produce GABA within them show decreased activity. The result is a prefrontal cortex that cannot regulate its own output properly. This is not a new observation. Lewis, Pieri, and Volk documented altered GABA neurotransmission in the prefrontal cortex in a 1999 paper in Biological Psychiatry. work that has held up in subsequent decades. What is newer is a more precise understanding of why those interneurons might be failing. A 2023 study published in Biological Psychiatry by Gawande and colleagues identified a specific molecular mechanism. GLUN2D subunits within parvalbumin interneurons regulate how those cells receive excitatory input, and disruptions to that subunit produce feed-forward inhibitory circuit failures that map onto schizophrenia-relevant molecular networks. This is circuit-level specificity, the kind of finding that suggests we are getting closer to mechanism, not just correlation. And then there is a 2024 paper in Nature Communications by Chen, Gu, and Wang, perhaps the most structurally interesting recent finding in this space. They identified a protein called synaptotagmin 11, which regulates how synaptic vesicles release dopamine. Mice deficient in synaptotagmin 11 show schizophrenia-like behaviors. And critically, the pathway runs through dopamine overtransmission, but the cause of that overtransmission is a synaptic vesicle protein, not dopamine itself. Dopamine excess in this model is the output. The input is a failure in the molecular machinery governing how neurotransmitters are packaged and released. Luckily, there is also the question of network-level organization. Research on the default mode network, the brain's self-referential resting system, shows that in first episode psychosis, the connectivity patterns within this network are abnormal, and those abnormalities correlate with neurotransmitter levels in ways that implicate both GABA and glutamate, not just dopamine. A 2023 paper in Neuropsychopharmacology by Chen, Song, and Unger found associations between default mode network connectivity and neurotransmitter profiles that suggest the problem in schizophrenia is not confined to one chemical or one circuit. It is systemic. It is a brain struggling to maintain coherent organization across multiple interacting systems. Whole brain connectivity map, nodes and edges in a network visualization, cool blue tones. None of this disproves dopamine's role. What it does is relocate dopamine from cause to consequence. One node in a broader failure, not the origin point of the disease. What does this mean if you are not a neuroscientist? It means that the mental model most people carry, schizophrenia as a dopamine problem fixed by dopamine-blocking drugs, is not so much wrong as it is a dramatic simplification of something that resists simplification. If you have a family member with schizophrenia who responded well to antipsychotics, that is real. The drugs are doing something real. But if you have a family member who did not respond, or who responded partially, or who carries the diagnosis but finds the medication numbing rather than helpful, the science is beginning to explain why. Because the medication was designed for one piece of a system that has multiple points of failure. Some patients' illness is centered on that piece, others is not. And if you are someone who has experienced psychosis yourself, this framing offers something that the old model did not quite capture. Your brain is not simply overflowing with one chemical. It appears to be struggling with a much more fundamental problem of how signals get organized, filtered, and regulated across an entire network. The experience of reality becoming unreliable, of ordinary stimuli feeling charged with hidden significance, is, according to this research, a coherent consequence of specific circuit failures. Not a random malfunction, a predictable output of a disrupted system. That is not comfort, exactly, but it is something closer to an honest account. Here is where I have to be direct about the limits of what we actually know. Every finding I have described comes from a field that is studying a profoundly difficult object, a living human brain, altered by illness and often by treatment, observed through imperfect instruments. The GABA interneuron findings are compelling. The synaptotagmin 11 work is genuinely interesting. The circuit models are increasingly precise, but we do not yet have a causal account of schizophrenia. We have a growing collection of correlated abnormalities, measured in symptomatic brains, interpreted through theoretical frameworks that shift as the data accumulates. Researcher at a lab bench, Vuthiro lab bench. Withield is moving. The dopamine hypothesis is not dead. It is being contextualized, placed inside a larger model of prefrontal dysregulation and synaptic failure. That is progress. What I cannot tell you is where it ends. And I think that uncertainty is worth sitting with, rather than papering over with a cleaner story than the evidence currently supports. The research behind this video draws from Nature Communications, Molecular Psychiatry, Biological Psychiatry, Journal of Psychopharmacology, Oxford, England, Neuropsychopharmacology. Official publication of the American College of Neuropsychopharmacology. Frontiers in Psychiatry. Progress in Neuropsychopharmacology and Biological Psychiatry. Every claim traces to a published source. Full citations are in the description below. If the way this channel thinks about neuroscience resonates with you, subscribing helps this work reach people who'd appreciate it. New videos on the science of mind every week.